To order, May 14th, 2019. If the clerk would please call the roll.
Mayor Merrifield.
Here.
Councilmember Rice.
Here.
Councilmember Yan.
Here.
Councilmember Kennedy.
Here.
Councilmember Bledsoe. Councilmember Grubb. Councilmember Mason.
Here.
Councilmember Manella.
Here.
Councilmember Blood. Here.
Do we have a motion to excuse anybody? I know Dora asked.
I move to excuse Councilmember Bledsoe and Grubb.
Okay. Is Barry not coming? Did you know?
I don't.
I know Dora. You'd all stand for the prayer and Pledge of Allegiance. Reverend Robin Norsworthy will give the prayer, and Councilmember Blood the Pledge of Allegiance.
I invite you to join me in prayer. O God of the universe, I come tonight to ask blessings for this council. May they use their best skills and judgment to respect the rights and interests of all people. As they make decisions that affect the people of Fairmont, give them insight that their work might be done with impartiality. Help them to lean on their shared ideals and common ends as they seek to represent all in fairness. And in matters that are hard to discern, bless their efforts to speak with integrity and clarity. May they find joy in serving us, the people, and may we, the people, support and encourage them as they represent us. Amen.
Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor. Thank you, Donna. I presume council has had a chance to review the minutes that we received on our tablets. If there's no corrections or adjustments, could we have a motion to accept the minutes?
I move to accept the minutes.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Go on. Okay, moving on to public hearings. The first is for an ordinance. If the clerk would read the first ordinance by title.
An ordinance of the Council of the City of Fairmont amending and supplementing the provisions of ordinance number 1534 as amended by ordinance number 1795, codified as Article 920 of Part 9, Streets, Utilities, and Public Services Code, Chapter 1, Streets and Sidewalk Areas of the Fairmont City Code to include the essential municipal or public service of police protection for which the funds, monies, and revenues received from the collection of the charges established by said article may be used.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone here to speak for the ordinance?
Yes, Mayor and Council. If you remember back in February, the work session that was entertained on the budget, the city manager's report included information about the ordinance and how the funds were going to be broke down in the addition for the police protection part of the ordinance. It was also, after that work session, built into the budget, and council has approved that budget. So it has all been talked about, spoken about up to this point, and I would say that I would ask that council please support the way that it is written and presented to you, not only at the work session, but also included in the budget, and approve the ordinance as said.
Thank you. Anybody else to speak for the ordinance? Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Tyler Hall, 500 Quincy Street. I'm a detective with the City of Fairmont and president with the FOP, the local chapter here. As was already brought up, The police department, we negotiated both with previous city manager Robin Gomez and with Bruce McDaniels for a pay raise that our agency hadn't gotten since 2012. At least we've not formally negotiated with the council since 2012. During those negotiations with McDaniels, he had brought up that they would try to have a service fee created like how it was presented at the workshop to address the recruitment and retention issues that the police department's been having. Since 2012, we've had 36 officers leave the department. We've hired 34, so we're not making any progress here. A lot of that has to do with pay and other benefits that local agencies around here have that we don't. We start off $5,000, which is the same with the fire department that they found. They're $5,000 a year behind all the local agencies in the area. And it just keeps getting worse. It's for both the police and the fire departments. We fall behind all of our neighboring agencies. Starts off at $5,000 a year. At 10 years, you're over $8,000 behind on the year what another officer and another agency that's similar to ours is making. And you know, we changed the pension. You know, the old pension's closed for the police and the fire departments. So it's just that much easier for officers to go to somewhere else where they're making more money. A new officer here that's only had 1 year on in the police department can go somewhere else and make the same as what a supervisor has worked here 10 or 15 years. That's something that's been addressed in the pay plan. I just would encourage you all to pass the protection fee. So not only that we can get our pay raise, but that the other city employees that this will affect by creating additional revenue, that they can get their raise that they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else to speak for the ordinance? Chief?
Hello, sir. Steve Shine, Police Chief for the City of Fairmont. I just wanted to readdress the issue of the creation of a police protection fee, in that right now we're pretty much funded from the general fund, and what this is going to do is going to allow us to bring in money that's usually a surplus in the street paving fee, just because it's been so difficult to find contractors that can even do the work. Plus, we have been on track with street paving and getting everything done. So that's going to allow us to bring that surplus into the police fund to free up the general funds for raises for other city employees, to aid the retention and the recruitment of employees all around the city. And I know that we have a major recruitment retention issue that this is going to help resolve. I just wanted to clarify that, you know, that the whole surplus is not going just to our salaries, but it's so that we're not such a drain on the general fund, and that we can better utilize money that's coming in from the surplus for the street maintenance fee. So, yeah, anything that we can do to bring us on track with the neighboring jurisdictions, I feel like that our professionalism and work ethic and everything is way above other police departments and agencies and the responses here in North Central West Virginia. So I definitely think that we deserve the increase to make us competitive with our neighboring jurisdictions and to stop the bleeding on some of our losses.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else here to speak for the ordinance? Chief?
Ed Simmons, City Fire Chief. I'm just going to ditto Chief Shine's comments. I agree 100%. We have recruitment and retention issues in the fire department as well. 2 out of the last 8 have stayed for more than a year. That's it. We've lost the other ones. Fortunately, we haven't had the retirements that they've had at the police department, so it really hasn't shown as much as it has over there, but we have the same issues. The other side of that coin is we have been promised for 3 years. City Manager Gomez, we put a 3-year plan together to get us equal to other comparable city employees, and this is the 3rd year of that. So I appreciate your guys' support. It sounds like we have it. I want to reiterate that the street fund is in a surplus. It's my understanding that we've are ahead of schedule on that. So I think it's a good thing. We need public service. We need public safety, and I appreciate you guys' support.
Thank you. Anybody else here to speak for the ordinance? one point I'd just like to make, you all have put forth the financial soundness of making this adjustment. One other thing I thought of too, that when you lose people, I don't know how long it takes to become a so-called veteran of either department, but you're replacing those constantly with new people, so there is a certain amount of suffering that you do in the capability, I guess, or experience level, maybe is a better term for it. And so I just wanted to lay that out there in support of the ordinance also. Is there anybody here to speak against the ordinance? I declare this public hearing closed.
Mayor, I think we had somebody back here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm going to play villain just a little bit.
Okay.
My name is Brett. I live on Cochran Street. My issue is not with obviously dealing with obviously some raises that have been promised to people for a long time, because we know that the jobs that they do are very difficult. That's not my issue. My issue is that we're robbing a fund that was laid out for a specific purpose. If we need to implement a fund that is to try and subsidize a deficit that's specifically for emergency services, then let's do that. But let's not, we laid this fund out to obviously do this, and we've seen some, obviously there have been some actual bad side effects of this as well, because I know obviously there are plenty of areas in town where incidents of speeding has gone up because we've made the roads better. So now people can drive faster down. My street is one of them, hands down. And there are several others that I know of that it's become a problem as well, because they inherently had speed bumps because of their condition. And now we have roads that are probably better than any in the area. I mean, I spend a lot of time in Morgantown, Clarkford, whatever, and obviously that problem, obviously we have gotten to that point where we have kind of caught up. But that's my biggest issue with this, is that we're stealing this money. And if you really want to set a precedent here, you actually, if we're so caught up, we actually dial that fee back and say, okay, we've exceeded our expectations on this. We dial that fee back, and then we implement one that's actually meant to serve this purpose, rather than taking money from one hand and kind of doing the shuffle like that.
Right.
So,
okay.
That's like I said, I don't fault these guys, and I understand. But the other part of this is, when you start comparing Fairmont to those neighboring areas, the other problem is those areas have seen the prosperity over the last 15 or 20 years that Fairmont has not. And that's part of the problem here too, is that obviously they have the resources to be able to fund those people properly, that we don't, and it's for that same reason, is we haven't seen the growth that you've seen on both ends of the corridor here from Clarksburg to Morgantown. I mean, that's where we know we're talking about as far as the neighboring municipalities, but they've seen far more growth than Fairmont has.
Right.
I mean, some things are definitely starting to turn in terms of cleaning up the town, but we're still behind.
Yeah.
And that's partially reflected in all of those numbers.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else here to speak against the ordinance? Okay.
That's my first name.
I declare this public hearing closed. On to public hearing number 2. If the clerk would please read the public hearing ordinance by title.
An ordinance of the Council of the City of Fairmont authorizing the acquisition of the assets of the waterworks system of Montana Water Association Incorporated, and approving an acquisition agreement by and among Montana Water Association, the City of Fairmont, and the Fairmont Water Board.
Thank you. Is there anyone here to speak for the ordinance?
Yes, Mayor. Mayor and Council, I'll briefly speak a little bit to the ordinance for the acquisition of Montana Water. To give a little bit of history, Montana has been in a water association since 1963. They've had a manager over the last 45, 50 years that is in the process or now retired. I've been in communication with Montana Water for many, many years because of where it lies between Meadowdale and Holt Road. It ties into our system very, very well. I've always been an advocate that if you can expand your customer base versus raising rates, it's the right thing to do. We performed that in Mannington and running the water line to Mannington and improving and increasing our customer base, and I think the same thing can also happen in Montana. The Public Service Commission is totally on board with the process. We've been actually in an O&M agreement or an operation and maintenance agreement with Montana Water Association since March the 1st. That was approved by the Public Service Commission. The West Virginia Bureau of Public Health also very supportive of what we were wanting to do here. The customers of Montana, 311 customers, deserve better where they're at, and they do not have staff. They do not have a professional staff. We're going to be able to bring them into our system and offer them all the amenities that we have here in Fairmont with our automated meter reading, a professional staff, a professional field services staff to go and repair a water break, whether it's on Christmas Day or New Year's Day or whatever day it might be. And I think it's ready. Montana has, since March 1st, we've liquidated everything in Montana in way of personnel, and we are not starting to see the generation of funds. We're reading their meters, we're billing them, we're incorporating them slowly but surely into our system. But we have not spent any capital dollars there at all at this point. And we will not until we get the approval from council and the final approval from the Public Service Commission, then we will proceed with our AMR installation there and things of that nature and give them the same benefits that our customers have by being able to log on the website and see whether they're using water, what their consumptions are, and some of those types of benefits. And I think that is, again, it's the right thing to do as a water quality professional. We help our partners and our neighbors, as we did in Mannington 10 years ago when they had a failing water plant and they had a failing water source. We were able to come and help them out, and I think we're going to be able to do the same thing here. There's been some question about the automated meter reading, and I know, Frank, you're interested in that, and I think, David, you're also interested with that. My utility controller, Mark Moore, is here, and Mark, if you can just briefly give them an update on that installation and how that will benefit the customers in Montana.
Mark Moore, Utility Controller for the City of Fairmont. As David mentioned, this is something that's been on the radar for quite some time. But my piece of it particularly is the installation of the automatic meters. For those of you that aren't familiar with it, in our present system, there is no more meter reading. The personnel, to give you an example, we used to have a route that started at Pizza Hut and went all the way to South Point, both sides of the road. Took 3 people a week to read 2,200 customers. After that, we're all human beings. You deal with the weather. You had to go back and check for leaks, check for rereads, find out what was going on in the system before you could bill the customers. We now read those 2,200 customers in 5 minutes with no loss of jobs. We have moved those people to other areas of the system involving leak detection, meter testing, and things of that nature. One of the primary benefits of this system for the customers is the fact that we can now monitor customers that if their meter does not go to 0 in 2 days, we're sending and corresponding with the customers because chances are they have a leak, because your meter should go to 0 in 24 to 48 hours. As of the 1st of this year, we have sent over 7,000 letters or emails to customers since we implemented this system in 2014 through 16. So that gives you some idea of how much this has benefited the customers. The other thing that we have implemented is right here. This is your water. There is an app, or not an app, sorry, there's a website that you can sign up for on any kind of media, a computer, pad, phone, whatever, and you can log in and see exactly what's happening in your water the day before. These are the kind of things that Montana is going to get if we get this system. They'll have this same kind of opportunity and this same kind of professional service. And you can have your house on this. I've got my mother's on there. That way if something happens at her house, I know about it. My kids, whatever. But this is just, I know a lot of you are new, and this is one of the new aspects, and no charge to the customer. This is all free. And all they have to do is call the office, ask for the instructions. We email it or mail it. It takes 15, 20 minutes tops to get it started. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. I would ask for mayor and council to support the ordinance. I would not put the utility or the city of Fairmont in harm's way if I didn't think that it was something that would not only benefit those customers, but also will be very beneficial to the utility itself.
Appreciate that. Okay. Is there anybody else to speak for the ordinance? Is there anybody to speak against the ordinance? I declare this public hearing closed. On to number 3, an ordinance. If the clerk would please read the by title.
An ordinance of the Council of the City of Fairmont setting forth the rates, fees, and charges for service to certain customers of the water system of the City of Fairmont, formerly customers of the Montana Water Association.
Is there anybody here to speak for the ordinance?
Yes, Mayor and Council, I'll speak to this ordinance again and explain to you a little bit about the tariff sheet. Montana has a higher rate customer charge than what we do here in Fairmont. So I've asked the Public Service Commission to include the Montana rate sheet into our tariff. So if and when we are able to spend capital dollars in Montana, we are subsidizing all of those through Montana's customers and not the City of Fairmont's customers. So once this is approval, the Montana rate sheet will be a part of our tariff and a supplement where the 311 customers in Montana will continue to get billed at the rate that they currently are. And the City of Fairmont customers will be billed currently at the same rate that we are. And the installation of the meters and any other infrastructure that we will be doing to upgrade Montana's system will be done through that fund and through those dollars. And that is the reason that we have to add that as a second ordinance to this process, and would hope that Mayor, you and Council will also support this as the part of the Montana acquisition.
Thank you.
I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
This is a big step, and I'm sure it was well received by the community of Montana. I mean, there's a tremendous cash outlay coming here. Is there any feeling down there towards annexation and bringing them into the city?
You know, Councilman, I have not had that discussion with any of the folks. I know that the folks that live in the Montana area and the discussions that I've had with them are very grateful that we are willing to come and help them. They've had water breaks and those types of things on Christmas Eve. That's the reason I referenced that. That went 4 days without.
Potholes that big?
Yeah, 4 days without being repaired and things of that nature. And actually 2 residents of one community had to go fix it themselves. Those are the types of things that I personally have, hear from them. Annexation has not been a topic that I've discussed, but I would say that somebody would possibly entertain that moving forward.
It might need to be discussed and considered and offered in the future.
Definitely won't hurt anything.
311 people, households, is a lot of people. And one of the solutions for the population drain here in the city is to add without tax increasing. But that's a beautiful area. There's some $500,000 homes in Montana. It's a secret, and it really should be a part of the city. We should protect that.
I think sometimes people live outside the city limits because they want to.
They do.
And that's why you say it's a beautiful place. I think sometimes they want to live outside the city limits for that very purpose.
It's big sky country.
Okay.
Efficient territory too.
Back on track here. Okay. We've lost control. Is there anybody else here to speak for the ordinance? Anybody to speak against? I declare this public hearing closed. On to public hearing number 4. If the clerk would please read the public hearing by title. The ordinance, I'm sorry.
An ordinance of the Council of the City of Fairmont amending and supplementing Chapter 9 Judicial, Article 189 Municipal Court of the Fairmont City Code to implement and provide for a certain court cost relating to the suspension and reinstatement of driver's licenses for non-payment or default of fines and failure to appear or respond, to be codified as Section 189.08 thereof.
Thank you. Is there anybody here to speak for the ordinance? Chief.
Steve Shine, Police Chief, City of Fairmont. I was not aware that this was going to be introduced today. I tried to get our court clerk to come in to give some clarification on it. I'm not sure what spurred it, other than I know that some surrounding cities have enacted a suspension, a fee for a suspended license to get reinstated. I know that it does cause additional work for the court clerk. I know that it won't be implemented on things like parking fines. That's all I know right now, is that I know that there was a lot of talk about it being implemented on $5 fines. It's not going to relate to parking. It is going to offset some of the work that she has to do to process suspended licenses. And it's not going to be an additional fee that anybody that doesn't take care of their stuff is not going to be facing. So they've already offended once, they've offended again by not taking care of the charge, and they've got their license suspended. From what I understand, it'll be a fee that they'll have to pay to the city for the full reinstatement of their driver's license. Don't know if there's anything else I can clarify, but I support anything that brings in a funding source to the city that's not on the back of law-abiding citizens.
Okay, thank you.
Chief, am I correct, you're saying this would not be on someone that's not paying their parking fines?
That is correct. It has nothing to do with parking citations. It's only on moving and criminal citations.
Do you want it now or later?
Oh, I'm just wondering if you had any questions for Chief.
Can I just ask one question?
Sure.
It's not on parking fines, I understand that, but people who tend to build up fines because they don't have the financial ability to pay for it, kind of get themselves into a mess sometimes. And so I guess that's my concern, is that
Maybe if you're talking to Mike, they can hear you.
Oh.
Can't hear you down
On the
here.
other side. I understand your question. You're worried about it affecting a portion of society that may not have good funding to begin with, a disproportionate. But the way that our court works, you can set up payment schedules. As long as you're making some effort to pay off your fines, you're not going to get suspended. So, if you make an appearance in front of the judge and you let him know what your issues are and what you're facing and what your living situation is, then there's a good chance he's going to work with you to make those arrangements. I know that it's 5 months automatically. He can extend that more if he wants to. Believe it or not, the suspension of driver's license usually affects people who make no attempt to appear in court, who make no attempt to resolve their citations and things like that. So I would say that it would disproportionately affect people who don't care at all about making things right. But I do understand that it will make a harder impact on people who don't have a lot to begin with. But there are remedies in place to try to take care of that before they get to the point where you have a suspended driver's license. So I don't think I answered your question right, but.
No, it's helpful. Thank you, Chief.
Okay, thanks, Chief. Anybody else here to speak for the ordinance?
Mayor, I wasn't here last meeting, and I know, Kevin, you said the up in numbers from last year. What was that number again? You had it by chance?
Just off the top of my head, I believe last year the clerk informed me that she had suspended 321 licenses.
Wow. Anybody else here to speak for the ordinance? Anybody to speak against the ordinance? I declare this public hearing closed. On to public hearing number 5. If the clerk could please read the ordinance by title.
An ordinance providing for the sale of one 2002 John Deere 6,220 tractor sidearm cutter owned by the City of Fairmont to the Fairmont-Marion County Regional Airport Authority.
Thank you. Is there anybody here to speak in favor of the ordinance?
Yeah, Mayor, I'll also speak to that. That piece of equipment is no longer needed in Public Works, changing out that piece of equipment, the mow trim, with a new piece of equipment. So this one could be liquidated, and there's no price or anything on that because it's going to another government entity.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else to speak for the ordinance? Anybody to speak against the ordinance? I declare this public hearing closed. Moving on to public hearing number 6, if the clerk could please read the ordinance by title.
An ordinance of the Council of the City of Fairmont amending and supplementing ordinance number 1803, duly adopted March 12, 2019, to be codified as section 1765 of the Fairmont City Code, floodplain regulations, so as to maintain compliance with the National Flood Insurance Program and to ensure receipt of federal funding or assistance in the event of a disaster.
Thank you. Is there anybody here to speak for the ordinance? Sandra will speak. Sandra? Okay. Please go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Sandra Scafidi, Director of Planning and Development at the city. I'm here again to speak in favor of this proposed floodplain ordinance. This ordinance is necessary to protect our citizens' lives and property in the event of a flood or natural disaster. The major difference between this ordinance and the previously passed ordinance were minor changes, which include the addition of a date that the previous flood insurance study was passed. This was requested by FEMA after the previous ordinance was going through the process. So I'm sorry we had to make additional changes, but they were minor and they'll allow us to continue to be in compliance with FEMA. So I ask that you support this ordinance. So, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else to speak in favor of the ordinance? Is there anyone to speak against the ordinance? I declare this public hearing closed. Announcements. Josh.
Mayor, I have no announcements this week.
Haven't been in the office. Frank? No. Nothing? David?
I'd like to congratulate the lacrosse team of Fairmont Senior High School. They're on their way to states. Make us proud.
Tom?
Yeah, I'd like to recognize and say something nice about the lady who has managed the Montana Water Association for a long time. Her name is Gail Spinagle. I became very familiar with this operation when I went to work at the insurance agency where I still work because I was her insurance agent. I got to know her and I got to know how devoted she was to this organization. I saw her over to Eastside McDonald's the other day and I told her, I said, you served a lot of people with a lot of water for a lot of years. She said, yes, I did. And I said, well, I'm sure they appreciate it. And now she gets a well-deserved retirement.
I agree.
Yes, very nice woman.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Deputy?
Mayor, I have nothing tonight.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just say, since nobody else is, congratulations to all the graduates from FSU and all the high schools. We're really proud of our community and all their accomplishments.
Thank you. And actually, I have nothing tonight either, so.
Wow.
I know. Go figure. Okay, moving on to citizens' petitions. Here's that we have one. Chief. Like I said before, you have as much time as you want because you're carrying a gun.
Thank you, thank you. I just wanted to bring to council's attention, well, you already know, but I wanted to make it public because of some other things going on this week. That a couple Sundays ago at about 6:48 a.m., the police were dispatched to the 400 block of Walnut Avenue. As everybody knows, we've been trying to make a dent in some of the criminal activity going on along Walnut Avenue. But unfortunately, once again, we were called there for an overdose. Suspected to be on heroin. The female was unresponsive and barely breathing. As with protocol, anytime that there's a suspected overdose, the police respond first before EMS or fire moves in. In this case, Officer Freem and Cochran were the first to arrive. They found a 48-year-old female lying on the floor, blue in the face, eyes glossed over and not breathing. There were a couple teenagers in the house along with 5 other adults. Trying to keep control of the situation, Officer Freem checked for a pulse, found she didn't have one. Officer Cochran began administering CPR, and after performing a round of CPR, officers confirmed that there was a pulse, and they cleared the scene for EMS to come in and further brought her around with the dose or a round of Narcan. So she survived her unintentional overdose and was later released from the hospital. Officer Cochran's quick response, his recognition of the severity of a medical emergency, his immediate actions and the effective application of CPR resulted in him saving a life. A failure to act or action or delay in his action could have led to a more tragic outcome. I just wanted to make public the actions of Officer Cochran and my appreciation of him. And while some people behind a keyboard might think that, or make a comment about how we should just let another druggie die, Officer Cochran took action to save a life, and hopefully she can make some better decisions in the future. Usually things like that will just make its way into your weekly report. I'll pull up a copy of the narrative, tell him and his supervisor good job, and would move on about our day. But I just wanted to let you know that this is another example of the noble acts that the police department performs on a regular basis. Found it fitting to announce that act that he did during National Police Week, where we're supposed to pay tribute to local, state, and federal law enforcement officers who served with courage and dedication and honor. And there's police officers all around America that are working devotedly and selflessly for the people of this nation, regardless of the perils or the hazards to themselves. They do it with the utmost integrity, commitment, and professionalism. So myself as a law enforcement leader, I wanted to make sure that I came up here and made this public announcement to make sure that all my guys, the 31 officers that I have working for me and the 8 civilian staff, know that I appreciate them during National Police Week. And on a more somber note, tomorrow, May 15th, is been dedicated as Peace Officers Memorial Day. It's to honor federal, state, and municipal officers who've been killed in the line of duty, not only in the line of duty, but disabled in the line of duty. Most recently, 2007, John Miller lost his ability to continue a career in law enforcement, now a upstanding member of the water department. So I'm glad he moved on to other things, but it's just another example of how close things can get hit to home. And I hope you realize the nobility and heroics and professionalism that the Fairmont Police Department operates with. I think we're a step above everybody else in this area. So thank you for your continued support, and I just want to make that notification of Law Enforcement Police Week and Peace Officers Memorial Day. Thank you.
Thank you. Is he here, Chief? He's not here? Officer Cochran is not here? Well, we still need to give him and these other people a round of applause.
And I'm just sorry to say we missed National Police Week. I know I talked to you about it last year. I felt terrible. So anyway, you guys do an amazing job. You protect our city every single day and put your life on the lines, and we just appreciate you all so much.
Officer Cochran had no idea I was going to make this announcement. I didn't tell him, and like I said before, we don't do it for the notoriety, but sometimes I feel compelled to make sure that everybody knows that we're out there.
And I think, and I hope all of your folks and Chief, your folks know that this council, I think I can speak for all of us, that not only during this 1 week, but every week, we're very appreciative of our first responders, and you are very much appreciated, even though you probably don't hear it. It's, it's like we don't tell our kids, the good stuff, but very, very impressive group, and we all feel very, very strongly about that. And I think that you saw that with some of our recent actions. And, there's only so much we can do, but I think we stepped up and are in process of doing that, and well-deserved by all of you.
We do, I think.
Absolutely. Okay, city manager's report. Let's see, that would be you, sir.
Well, I don't have much of a report other than, yeah, I've been reporting it. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm glad I was able to help step up, keep the doors open. I work with these guys and gals every day over the last 25 years, and whether it's police, fire, code, planning, utilities, professional staff, the citizens of Fairmont and our ratepayers need to appreciate what we have and the people that we have, because I've been on the job 10 days or whatever, and it's the people that I get to meet now that I haven't really worked a lot with other than on a, hey, how are you type thing. You got some of the best, and I agree with them that no matter what part of the department you're in, again, whether in general fund or utilities, good bunch of people, and I'm proud to be associated with them for many, many years.
Right.
And I'll be here until they want me to step down.
And we do appreciate what you're doing. I should have mentioned that myself. We appreciate
welcome.
your stepping in and helping us during this brief transition. And I agree with you, Dave. The city has good bones.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
Good people.
Absolutely. Through and through. Okay, moving on to consideration of council business. Agenda item number 1 is for the adoption of an ordinance. If we could have a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Would the clerk please read the ordinance by title?
An ordinance of the City of Fairmont amending and supplementing the provisions of ordinance number 1534 as amended by ordinance number 1795, codified as Article 920 of Part 9, Streets, Utilities, and Public Services Code, Chapter 1, Streets and Sidewalk Areas of the Fairmont City Code, to include the essential municipal or public service of police protection, for which the funds, monies, and revenues received from the collection of the charges established by said article may be used.
Any discussion? Okay. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Yan?
Yes.
Councilmember Blood?
Yes.
Sorry. Councilmember Manella?
Yes.
Councilmember Kennedy?
Yes.
Councilmember Rice?
I abstain.
Councilmember Mason?
Yes.
Mayor Merrifield?
Yes. Okay, I declare this ordinance adopted by a majority vote. Moving on to agenda item number 2 for the adoption of an ordinance. If I could have a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, would the clerk please read the ordinance by title?
An ordinance of the Council of the City of Fairmont authorizing the acquisition of the assets of the Waterworks System of Montana Water Association and approving an acquisition agreement by and among Montana Water Association LLC Incorporated, the City of Fairmont, and the Fairmont Water Board.
Thank you. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Manella?
Yes.
Councilmember Rice?
Yes.
Councilmember Mason?
Yes.
Councilmember Kennedy?
Yes.
Councilmember Yan?
Yes.
Councilmember Blood?
Yes.
Mayor Merrifield?
Yes. I declare this ordinance adopted by a majority vote. Okay. Moving on to agenda item number 3, the adoption of an ordinance. If we could have a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
The clerk please read the ordinance by title.
An ordinance of the Council of the City of Fairmont setting forth the rates, fees and charges for service to certain customers of the water system of the City of Fairmont, formerly customers of Montana Water Association.
Thank you. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Mason?
Yes?
Councilmember Blood?
Yes.
Councilmember Yan?
Yes.
Councilmember Kennedy?
Yes.
Councilmember Rice?
Yes.
Councilmember Manella?
Yes?
Mayor Merfield?
Yes. Okay. Moving on to agenda item number 4, the adoption of an ordinance. Could we have a motion and a second?
Mayor, I would ask that we table this ordinance for now till we can get more information on how it affects our citizens who may have difficulty paying this additional fee.
I'll second.
Is there a second? Okay. Can you call the roll? Okay. The clerk could please call the roll.
Councilmember Manella?
No.
Councilmember Rice?
Yes.
Councilmember Kennedy?
Yes.
Councilmember Yan?
Yes.
Councilmember Blood?
Is this for table?
To table.
Yes.
Councilmember Mason?
Yes?
Mayor Merfield?
Yes. Okay. The ordinance has been tabled. Moving on to agenda item number 5, the adoption of an ordinance. If I could have a motion and a second.
So moved.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Would the clerk please call the roll? I'm sorry. I lost it. Yeah, you better read it by title first.
An ordinance providing for the sale of one John Deere tractor sidearm cutter owned by the City of Fairmont to the Fairmont-Marion County Regional Airport Authority.
Thank you. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Kennedy?
Yes.
Councilmember Mason?
Yes?
Councilmember Yan?
Yes.
Councilmember Manella?
Yes.
Councilmember Rice?
Yes.
Councilmember Blood?
Yes.
Mayor Merfield?
Yes. Okay. The ordinance passes by unanimous vote. Agenda item number 6, the adoption of an ordinance. If we could have a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Would the clerk please read the ordinance by title?
An ordinance of the Council of the City of Fairmont amending and supplementing ordinance number 1803, duly adopted March the 12th, 2015, codified as section 1765 of the Fairmont City Code, floodplain regulations, so as to maintain compliance with the National Flood Insurance Program and to ensure receipt of federal funding or assistance in the event of a disaster.
Thank you. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Rice?
Yes.
Councilmember Blood? The designation of David Sager as entitled to receive the salary differential between pay class grade 760 and class pay grade 765 as provided by the city's occupational list of classes / pay plan effective July 2nd, 2018 until such time as Valerie A. Means assumes the duties and responsibilities as city manager. Such action is necessary insofar as the provisions of the West Virginia Code 51048 to restrict the ability of the duly appointed interim city manager to fully serve the city. This proposed emergency ordinance, if adopted, shall have the retrospect effective date of May 3rd, 2019, and shall automatically stand repealed as of the 61st day following said date, provided, however, it may be reenacted for one additional 60-day period if the emergency is deemed to still exist.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Manella?
Yes.
Councilmember Yan?
Yes.
Councilmember Kennedy?
Yes.
Councilmember Mason?
Yes?
Councilmember Blood?
Yes.
Councilmember Rice?
Yes.
Mayor Merfield?
Yes. Okay, I declare this emergency ordinance adopted by unanimous vote. Agenda item number 8, the introduction, first reading, and to set a public hearing for an ordinance. Could we have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Would the clerk please read the ordinance by synopsis?
An ordinance amending and revising Article 3, the manager of the Fairmont City Charter, and more particularly Section 3.01, appointment, qualifications, compensation thereof, to provide the city manager with the opportunity to live in certain designated unincorporated areas of Marion County, West Virginia, which exist outside the corporate limits of the city of Fairmont, pursuant to the provisions of the West Virginia Code, Section 8-4-8, which provides for a charter amendment under the alternate plan. This proposed ordinance would cause an amendment of Article 3, City Manager, Section 3.01, appointment, qualifications, compensation of the existing city charter, to provide the city manager with the opportunity to live in certain designated unincorporated areas of Marion County, West Virginia, outside the corporate limits of the city of Fairmont. The areas are identified by the maps maintained by the Marion County Assessor for real estate tax purposes, as said maps exist on the date of the adoption of the ordinance, if adopted. The expanded areas within which the city manager may reside are commonly referred to as Mount Vernon Heights area, situated in Grant District, Marion County, and Country Club Estates area, situated in the Fairmont District, Marion County.
Thank you. Okay. All in favor of setting a public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Motion carries. The public hearing will be set for June 11th. That was my second guess. Okay. Agenda item number 9, the introduction, first reading, and to set a public hearing for an ordinance. Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Would the clerk please read the synopsis, please?
An ordinance amending and revising Article 2, the council of the Fairmont City Charter, more particularly Section 2.08, city clerk thereof, to eliminate the requirement that the city clerk must be a resident of the city of Fairmont, pursuant to the provisions of West Virginia Code 8-4-8, which provides for a charter amendment under the alternate plan. This proposed ordinance would cause an amendment of Article 2, Section 2.08, city clerk of the existing Fairmont City Charter, and would eliminate the requirement that the city clerk be a resident of the city of Fairmont.
Thank you. All in favor of setting a public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The public hearing will be set for June 11th also. Thank you. Okay, agenda item number 10, the introduction, first reading, and to set a public hearing for an ordinance. Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Would the clerk please read the ordinance by synopsis?
An ordinance of the Council of the City of Fairmont amending and supplementing ordinance number 1771, duly adopted May 22nd, 2018, as amended by ordinance number 1802, duly adopted February 26, 2019, which ordinances provide for the City of Fairmont's current pay plan and list of occupational classes for all class titles and employees, to provide for base pay increase for certain class pay grades, class pay titles, certification pay, and 1.5% pay increase for all employees except the city manager and the information technology technician. By this proposed ordinance, the Council for the City of Fairmont provides for certain modifications to the city's existing pay plan, which was adopted by Ordinance 1771 as amended by Ordinance 1802. The proposed changes are identified as follows: position-related certification pay for certain water and wastewater employees previously exempt from such pay, establishment of a $200 West Virginia law enforcement certification pay per year of service for police officers, and base pay increases as follows: $500 for auto service person, $3,000 for probationary patrol officer, $5,000 for patrol officer and detective, $5,000 for sergeant and sergeant detective, $5,000 for patrol officer and detective, $5,000 for sergeant and sergeant detective, $3,000 for lieutenant and lieutenant detective, $3,000 for probationary firefighter, $3,000 for firefighter apprenticeship 1 and 2, $6,156 for firefighter, $4,698 for fire lieutenant, $2,358 for fire captain, $4,900 for municipal court clerk, $1,250 for accounts payable clerk, $1,250 for engineering technician, $1,250 for construction inspector, $1,250 for customer service supervisor, $1,250 for B&O tax manager, $1,250 for utility billing manager, $1,500 for accountant, $1,500 for secretary treasurer, $5,000 for information technology technician, $1,500 for assistant finance director, $3,000 for senior engineer, $3,576 for building inspector, $3,066 for city clerk, $1,500 for utility controller, $1,500 for finance director, $2,863 for police chief, $2,863 for the fire chief, $25,894 for the city manager. 1.5% base pay increase for all employees except city manager and information technology technician. If adopted, this ordinance shall become effective on or after the first day of the first full paid period after July 1st, 2019.
Thank you. You're a trooper.
Thank you.
Okay. All in favor of setting a public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Public hearing will be set for May 28th. Thank you. On to agenda item number 11, the adoption of a resolution. Is there a motion and a second?
So moved. Second.
Okay. Would the clerk please read the resolution by synopsis?
A resolution of the Council of the City of Fairmont authorizing the submission of an application with the George W. Bowers Family Charitable Trust for a grant to fund, in part, the purchase of a new HVAC system in the old Central Fire Station to encourage reuse as cultural arts facility in the City of Fairmont, and if such grant is awarded, further authorizing the acceptance thereof, and providing the city manager with authority to do all things reasonable and necessary in connection therewith. By this proposed resolution, the Council for the City of Fairmont authorizes the filing of a grant application with the George W. Bowers Family Charitable Trust for a grant in the amount of $15,000 to fund, in part, the purchase and installation of an HVAC system for the old Central Fire Station on Monroe Street. This grant will be matched in part by the City of Fairmont. By this proposed resolution, the Council of the City of Fairmont further nominates and appoints the city manager or his designee as the official representative to act on behalf of the City of Fairmont in connection with said grant program, and to execute and deliver the application, accept such grant if awarded, and to execute and deliver any relative program agreement and any other relevant document, and to further take action that may be reasonable and necessary in connection therewith.
Thank you again.
Sorry about my voice.
Well,
At least I have
ask
one.
you to read them. Okay. Is there any discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Manella?
Yes.
Councilmember Rice?
Yes.
Councilmember Yan?
Yes.
Councilmember Kennedy?
Yes.
Councilmember Mason?
Yes.
Councilmember Blood?
Yes.
Mayor Merfield?
Yes. Okay. Declare the resolution adopted by unanimous vote. Agenda item number 12, the adoption of a resolution. Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, would the clerk please read the resolution by synopsis?
A resolution of the council of the city of Fairmont authorizing the submission of an application for the West Virginia Department of Highways for a Transportation Alternatives Program grant in the amount of $250,000 for infrastructure improvements, and if such grant is awarded, further authorizing the acceptance thereof, and providing the city manager with authority to do all things reasonable and necessary in connection therewith. By this proposed resolution, the council for the city of Fairmont authorizes the filing of a grant application with the West Virginia Department of Highways for a grant in the amount of $250,000 to fund in part the completion of the Locust Avenue Sidewalk project. This grant program requires a 20% match from the city of Fairmont. By this proposed resolution, the council of the city of Fairmont further nominates and appoints a city manager or his designee as the official representative to act on behalf of the city of Fairmont in connection with said grant program, and to execute and deliver the application if such grant is awarded, and to execute and deliver any relative program agreement and any other relevant document, and to further take action that may be reasonable and necessary in connection therewith.
Thank you again. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Rice?
Yes.
Councilmember Manella?
Yes.
Councilmember Mason?
Yes.
Councilmember Kennedy?
Yes.
Councilmember Blood?
Yes.
Councilmember Yan?
Yes.
Mayor Merrifield?
Yes. Declare this resolution adopted by unanimous vote. Agenda item number 13, if we could have a motion and a second to appoint Josh Rice.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
What are we appointing him to?
Well, I didn't think it mattered after that. I was going to tell you once he got appointed. To a term on the Fairmont Parks Commission to end December 31st, 2022. Okay. The clerk please call the roll.
Councilmember Kennedy?
Yes.
Councilmember Yan?
Yes.
Councilmember Mason?
Yes.
Councilmember Blood?
Yes.
Councilmember Rice?
Yes.
Councilmember Manella?
Yes.
Mayor Merrifield?
Yes. Okay, I declare the appointment of Josh Rice to the Fairmont Parks Commission for a term to end December 31st, 2022. Agenda item number 14.
Mayor, I wish to move that we confirm Mary Ann Moran for the Fairmont Parks Commission for a 6-year term to end on June 30th, 2025.
Thank you. Yes,
Second.
I heard it. Second.
Yeah, very well done.
Okay, very good. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Rice?
Yes.
Councilmember Blood?
Yes.
Councilmember Manella?
Yes.
Councilmember Kennedy?
Yes.
Councilmember Mason?
Yes.
Mayor Merrifield?
Yes.
Councilmember Yan?
Yes.
Okay, I declare Mary Ann Moran appointed to the Fairmont Parks Commission for a 6-year term to end June 30th, 2025. We'll now go into executive session pursuant to West Virginia Code 6-9A-429 and City Charter Section 2.11A3 to consider matters involving or affecting the purchase, sale, conveyance, or lease of real property. We will not conduct any business when we come out of executive session. Is there a motion and a second to go into session?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We adjourn at 8:05. Then we'll reconvene.